Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Keenan, and today I'd like to take you through a few examples of the websites I've designed. Now, I've been designing for 2 decades, so obviously there's been a lot to choose from. But in this case, I've chosen a series of sites to help illustrate the user experience, or UX, and of course, search engine optimization. Right, let's start with Will Pearson. So Will is a Sunday Times best-selling author with a multitude of books written in fact and fiction. And of course, you can see as you scroll down the site, you get straight to his portfolio of work. And there's quite a lot to choose from. Now, obviously, you might look at this website and think, well, this has been designed to sell books. Well, that's not exactly true. This website has been designed to help Will pitch his skills to publishers. Let me take you over to Will's actual personal biography page. So as you can see here, we've used an image at the top that explains, rotates and tells the story. It says that Will's been a writer for 30 years. It goes on to explain that he covers both fact and fiction, and that, of course, he also appeals to all age groups and all interests. It's a very soft, a very slow, a very subtle image. It's not the sort of image that immediately has your heart racing. It's something very much reading a book, publishers. You think of those old dusty rooms. And of course, more importantly, you think of people that just sat there enjoying a good old book. Now, Will has to sell himself. And to do that, we want to introduce his skills. So we've gone in for ghostwriting and writing of books. And I've produced a graphic on the right-hand side that uses a couple of examples of his work along with a few fun features. And then we move across into television and media, which obviously he's written for TV. And then across to his translation skills, obviously being multilingual. And then we bring up his portfolio again. So at this point, any publisher that's looking at this will go, wow, this guy's incredibly well established, incredibly gifted, with a lot of skills. Obviously, when you click on one of these books, we then go in to tell the story. So, for example, if we click on Go, 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 which is a book about the Iranian embassy siege in 1980, that Will authored with Rusty Furman, one of the members of the SAS that went in through the back of the embassy. We've changed the graphics to fit the genre. More importantly, we've given the cover a very dominant position on the page. And then as you scroll down, we introduce a quick summary of the work and then provide a movie on the right-hand side. So you can obviously click on that movie and you'll see the story play out. I'll save you from watching all of that and scroll down to the reviews and then, of course, back to the books again. So this user experience, the visitor's experience of this website is very sharply focused on Will working on a project. It's not so much focused on selling Will's books. That said, if you have come across the book, you can just click on this and you're straight over to Amazon where you can buy it. All right, let's move across. So we have a story being told visually, which in a rotating banner. I want to show you an example of that simplified even further in this computer recycling business. This business is actually New Tech Recycling. And this website is one of their satellite sites, which is used for focusing on different types of businesses. As you can see, it's corporate, industry, small businesses, and so on. Now, what we want to do here is we want to explain the problem of computer disposal in 3 very brief and concise slides. So we'll start here with a graphic of a landfill. Now, you've got to understand a lot of electronic waste is filled with so many pollutants. It's quite deadly if it gets into the water table. And we're saying we can change that landfill by making it easier to be a responsible recycler. And then we go straight into the brand where the future is looking good. So it's very apparent what we do, and it's a very immediate as to the importance of why we do it. But does it have any wow factor? Not really. So let's look at a site that uses the same form of image rotation, but introduces a bit of wow to it. Let's go over here. So this company is called Aquila Aerospace, and they specialize in designing and building special mission aircraft, which do everything from surveillance to maritime support and even transportation and, of course, medical services, so such as an air ambulance. So this is a sort of aircraft that's sold to a government. It's not really a private venture in terms of its market. So anybody getting to this website will have been given the link that had been introduced. It had been a soft sell introduction. So I'm not too interested in making it very content rich in terms of keywords for the search engine. I'm more interested in making the visitor of this site go, wow, I like that. Now, obviously, this rotating image is just to give the quick overview. Then I've given a headline and a paragraph. And then to introduce a bit of wow, I've produced this graphic of the aircraft. Now, you have to understand this website was quite challenging because there were hardly any images and hardly any copy. So I had to go away. A lot of Photoshop work to create these aircraft, a lot of research to write the copy. But in this particular example, to produce a wow factor, I've used what's called a parallax design. And as you scroll down the page, whatever the mission, you'll see that the graphic changes from this aircraft at high altitude into a blueprint. And as it reaches the aircraft, you can see the image starting to appear on the blueprint. Now, perhaps more importantly, we're suggesting that this is a lot more complicated than just a normal aircraft. So at this stage, I need to bring in the graphic to introduce a more complex aspect to it in the blueprint. As you can see, we've got all sorts of goodies going on here. Now, we need to bring the visitor back to the concept of the aircraft and back to the reasons why they should buy it. So we'll leave the wow factor from here and we jump straight in to a range of graphics and copy that simplify the service and then allow you to click and go and get more information, as you can see here. So if I go to, let's go to this page. This is about the Maritime Patrol Service. So again, it's pretty simple. It's very immediately comprehensible, but I want to introduce that wow. So I'm going to scroll down. Okay, this is what they do. This is some of the advantages of the services: anti-submarine patrols, maritime protection and surveillance, search and rescue. But then we want to produce the wow. So here we go, another parallax design. And what I'm introducing is an aircraft, or the aircraft, at high altitude. And graphically, we've produced this image which suggests some form of surveillance technology that's, obviously breaking everything down into a grid. And then as you scroll across, we start to explain how that's relevant. So in the first level of service, let's look at search and rescue. So it's gone from being a grid to showing a destroyer and a submarine and a rescue helicopter. And then, of course, as we go up, look at counter piracy and smuggling. We can see on the right-hand side a series of boats, obviously designed to combat piracy. Obviously, this aircraft is communicating between all of these and providing intelligence to all of these different sectors. And then, obviously, looking after the fishermen. There you go. And as you see the fishermen appearing on the left. And then, obviously, I wanted to try and digitize the graphic to sort of suggest that this was all state-of-the-arts. And I think it's come out quite well. But obviously, I wanted to put all of the aspects together and title them. So we've got a bit of wow there going on, and then we're back into the content again. All right, so that's wow. But what about directing the visitor to make a contact decision? So let's look at this one. So this website, again, is electronics recycling. It's because of its specialized area, we call it IT asset disposition. But it's recycling computers. So in order to immediately visually tell the visitor what it is we do, you can't go wrong by putting in a huge recycling image, putting in circuitry boards on the image, binary code in the background, a data center, and a chap holding a server. It's kind of very immediately obvious this is for recycling computers. But where's the wow? well, I'm going to use a parallax on this to give it a bit of wow. And as you scroll, you can see it changes the depth of field and the perspective. Obviously, this can change by using a blur filter so that you can change the foreground or background depth. But in this case, I wanted to keep it sharp because all the images really say something about the service. All right. Now, as you scroll down, we are presented with a movie on the left, a copy on the right, and a call to action down here. So a telephone number, email address, everything else you need. Now, at this point, we're sort of saying, all right, if you don't want to bother reading it, just play the movie, and you'll get a very brief, very quick overview as to what the business does. Now, if you've gone further down, you can see we've got a simplification of the services, and then emailers, callers, and then a bit more detail about the services and so on. So the design's a lot of fun. It's got a bit of wow, but it's really just a very quick, this is what we do. Give us a call, send us an email, and that's it, job done. Now, you have to look at this from a point of view of, could we make it even more wowish and still keep the message as direct as possible? So let's have a look at this website. This is for another iTag company, again, designed by me. I've dropped a movie in the background, and I've split the services into 4 core services: removal, reselling, and recycling, and destroying, which is obviously data hardware destruction. Now, obviously, you can see that the movie in the background is changing. So you see a chap is pulling out an old server for disposal, and you can see we've got this environmental issue with the earth. And of course, as you mouse over one of these, like let's say data destruction, you can see that we have the break of dawn appearing on the horizon, and within the halo, within the light caused by that, you can see a description of that service along with the graphic. So of course, it's clear. It's got a lot of wow. It's very clear as to what this company does. But if you scroll down, we've got the same response here. So you can go straight to watching a movie, or you can get a very who are we statement with a big telephone number and a big email address. But if they carry on going, they're looking for a bit more validation, looking for do a bit more due diligence. They'll get another call to action, which is basically us saying, right, what can we do for you today? What would you like to do? Would you like to recycle? Would you like to sell? Would you like to destroy your hard drives? Would you like to a combination of everything? And then upon clicking on one of these options, or all of them, you then go to a special calculator that works out the cost of recycling, the cost of data destruction, or how much money you could make from selling your old IT assets. And of course, I wrote the technical brief for that piece of software, and then worked on the GUI, the interface for it. But I'll show you that in a bit. For the moment, let's scroll down a bit more. So if they are doing due diligence, if the visitor to the site is looking to learn more about your company, if they need some form of understanding as to whether or not you could be trusted, whether or not you have any possible means of explaining your ethos, which really means that what are your company values, then this is where we have that opportunity. So what we can suggest in this carousel, this image carousel with bullet points, is how we can help and what problems we resolve. It's very much a brief and visual explanation. There's nothing too complex about it. But as you scroll down, we introduce a level of complexity. And of course, each one of these will go off to a web page which provides even more detail. And of course, if that's not enough, and you're wondering whether or not we accept a certain type of material or a certain item, then I've listed the items. And you can click on any one of these, and it will give you even more information. So, and then we end up at the bottom with the ability to subscribe to a monthly newsletter with discounts and promotions and news about legislations and laws, which is very important to an IT executive. Right, so that's pretty much the basic aspect of this website. We've got the wow factor, and we've got the customer journey pretty much taken care of, and a call to action. And as you can see here, this is one of the many applications on the website that will allow you to recycle or sell your IT hardware, and it's split up in a series of steps. We can identify what they've got, where they need it picking up from, and of course any data destruction options, and so on and so forth. And of course, by the end of this process, they get an email with a price. So let's look at the content production for this website in terms of its SEO value. Now, every single page on this website, there's 78 web pages, has a very, or if not identical, layout. And what I'm trying to do here is produce a quick graphic at the top, which just explains it, something nice, a movie on the bottom left of that graphic, and a text explanation, and then a call to the telephone or an email. This means that the visitor doesn't need to leave this section of the website to know exactly what it is you offer. Every single key page, whether it be recycling or data destruction or selling, has its own unique movie. So it's not one movie fits all. There are specialized movies if you just start drilling down into the content, if you click on recycling or you click on selling or so on and so forth. However, if you scroll down any further, then I've basically created these very simplified blocks of content to direct you to a page, again, very similar to this, where there's another call for action. So if you're like, well, do they do hyperscale data centers? And there it is, hyperscale data centers. Right, beyond this point, the majority of content isn't for the visitor, it's for Google. Let me just stop with this. So when I created this brand for the company's called Exit Technologies over in Florida. I wanted a strap line to go with the new brand. Your choice is a voice for change. And the reason for that is that this business venture is about making the IT industry more renewable, i.e. preventing or reducing pollution from manufacturing IT hardware. And of course, more importantly, making sure that when IT hardware reaches the end of its life, it is disposed of correctly or fully recycled to be used again. So you create this circular economy. So at this point, you've reached the strap line, you've reached the callers or emailers thing. If you're interested in the service by this point, you pretty much know what it is they offer. So it's time to reach out. The rest of this section is created for Google. Now, in this particular feature, you can see we've got a series of FAQs. And as you scroll down, you have loads and loads and loads of written content that addresses each one of those FAQs. Now, in terms of the engagement, we also have a feature which allows anybody that has scrollen down to suddenly send us a message with the number of items they want to sell or recycle, and we will then send them a quote. And then, of course, more information there. Then more about the items, and of course, eventually down at the bottom. Now, the reason why we've done this is that the majority of this information is filled with keyword-rich search phrases. And using an FAQs feature like we have in here, now we haven't just used FAQs, we've used all sorts of different features. But in this one example, we've used FAQs. It allows us to introduce a schema that tells Google that this is an FAQ. And that schema will also say this page also has a movie or an article or whatever the schema is. And that means that Google is going to recognize the content more clearly and then decide where it wants to put it within its search results. And I'll show you that in a moment. But let's go one step further. Let's look at the source code. Now, these websites aren't a shop-in-the-box solution. They're not a WordPress solution. They're bespoke, hand-coded websites. And that allows us to go a lot further in terms of what we're doing and how much content we're creating and how we want to structure that code. Now, obviously, in pretty much all websites, you tend to have this metadata, social media metadata. Here's your schema. And of course, then you go into the body content that defines the way the website looks, the images, the text, and so on. In this example, you can see that we've got a very keyword-rich domain name, but also a very keyword-rich directory structure, and also a very keyword-rich file name. We've not just stopped there. We've also introduced keywords to the classes for the layout. And we've also ensured that every single aspect that can have it has a title with a lot of keyword phrases put in, or an alt statement with a lot of keyword phrases put in. So now you have keywords buried in the files, in the directories, and of course in the tags for that content, as well as the content itself. Now, the coded content that you don't usually get to see on the front end has to correspond to the visual content. Otherwise, you're going to get into trouble. Otherwise, they're going to think you're spamming. There's a lot of other attributes to coding as well. For example, not using too many headline references and so on and so forth. But the bottom line is this just allows you to explain to Google what it is that your business does and allows Google to join the dots. Don't get me wrong. Producing this amount of content is quite time consuming. For example, this particular website has 78 web pages and about 140 A4 pages of written content and about, I would estimate, between 500 to 600 graphics. It's a huge amount of work. But does it work? Well, let's have a look. Here's a search result for ITAD companies in New Jersey, in the USA. And as you can see, they've got the predominant position on the page with the knowledge panel on the right-hand side. So that's worked. But let's see what we can get, see if we can make that any better. So here we go. This company is the company we've just been looking at. Again, we're looking this time in Florida, though we've got this site in all the states it wanted to be. We've got a predominant position. Now you can see here that it's got the knowledge panel on the right, and it's also got the first organic result. So it's got the most predominant position on the page, and it's first in search organically. Now let's take a look at this site. Now this website, again, NewTek is the electronics computer recycling website we looked at the beginning. And as you can see, we've got the predominant right-hand side knowledge panel. We've also got first in search, and we've also got our social media feeds appearing in search as well. So literally 1, 2, 3, 4 positions held in Google. Now the top position is an advert, but as the campaign activates, obviously it's scheduled on a time frame, this company will then own first in ads as well. So that means that this company owns the entire top part of Google on the first page. All right, so that's very simple explanation of search engine optimization in web design. There is a lot more to search engine optimization than just coding and design and content creation. A lot more. But let's get back quickly to the user's experience. So today there are so many different medias that you're going to look through to see your website. For example, this is a television perspective of the website. You also get so many different scales of monitor, so many different resolutions of computer screens. So the most important thing that you design for today is the smartphone or the mobile phone. Let's have a look. Now, this is the same site, but it's changed radically to work on the smartphone. Now, I don't want to produce tons and tons of scrolling content for this site because it's going to confuse the visitor. So I want to sell it as cleanly and simply just in the top segment. Now you have to picture someone might be about to drive in their car and they found the site and they think, right, well, okay, I don't want to be reading through all this to make sure it's the right site. Let's see what it is. IT company. Well, that looks like it makes sense. Remove, resell, recycle IT, destroy IT. Okay, there's stuff going on here. If I scroll down, okay, there's a movie, I could listen to that or I could watch that, but I don't have time, I'm going to drive, so just read me the page. And they can click on this thumb-sized graphic and it will literally just start reading them content that I've set that I want them to hear. So it won't be the entire page, it will be about the services, about the company, and it's basically a quick sales pitch. Now, every single page in this website has a slightly different audio file, to extenuate the relevance of that page. So if it's about data destruction, for example, it'll be more about destroying hard drives than it will be about recycling computers. And of course, what I want them to do is I want them to call us or email us straight away. So the call of action is actually put down here, and they can either just hit that call or hit that email button, and they can phone us or send us an email from their phone. That is pretty much that. In today's world, when you're designing a website, you have to take into consideration that a large number of people will be looking at that site on a smartphone. Okay, that's pretty much it, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for listening.